Welcome to another edition of Two Guys Discussing Software.
Irish guys.
Thank you, Brendan. He's
Irish
back.
guys.
He's
I'm back, baby.
Episode 37. This is the 37th time I've been in this room. I've been in this room, I think, 37 times. Brendan, you have not been in this room. But it's our year end. Happy New Year to everybody, because and it'll be coming out very soon. It's time for a final annual wrap-up, and I'm delighted to say, Brendan, by that lovely tone of voice I hear, those dulcet tones of yours, you found your way back to us.
Yeah, you let me back in the room.
Well, listen, what can I do? You know, where have you been? You've been out gallivanting, I hear. You've been off in Las Vegas and doing crazy stuff.
Yeah, well, I think I missed one in the summer because I was on holidays, so I think Rowan stepped in.
Yeah.
And then I think I dodged a couple through travel. But in the last 6 weeks, I've been in the US a few times, twice. I just came back from Gartner IOCS in Vegas, and I was at Gartner IOCS in the UK as well. So big events.
The jet setter.
I'm a bit of a jet setter, yeah.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. Well, you know what? Now the guy who was looking after your seat while you were away, Hari Candadai, he's still here. He's here in the room with us too. We're all together with a broken hand, mind you.
Well, you've heard of imposter syndrome, right? He's sitting right opposite me.
Sorry, guys, you can't get it off me that easy.
You don't even sound Irish.
Just when I thought I was taking over, Brendan shows back again.
Don't worry. You that cast in your hand when you get a good swing at him later on.
Yeah.
So what are we calling this podcast? Two Irish and an Indian?
No, we're going to call it two guys. Because I'll just be the host. You know, you guys can get going. Now,
whatever your preferred pronoun is.
We've got a great discussion planned for the day. We've got a bit of news. There'll naturally be a bit of gossip. It's good to do these things at the end of the year. So let's get stuck in, lads. Let's get stuck in. We won't start with our favourite topic just yet. We'll start with a little bit about Microsoft. Loads of news about Microsoft during the year. I mean, we started up beginning of the year. Myself and Hari talked about this in the last podcast. We started off beginning of the year talking about Microsoft buying Call of Duty, Activision. There's been lots of things happening there, hasn't there? And it's been very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, one of their biggest acquisitions ever. Obviously, it caused a bit of kerfuffle, if you like, when they bought one of the most popular, profitable games of all time, or at least the producer of that, which is Call of Duty. I know all about it because my son plays it, and I hear him shouting at his TV screen constantly.
I won't ask you what he shouts.
There's a lot of words beginning with one particular letter of the alphabet. We won't go there. But yeah, it looks like they may be in a bit of bother with the antitrust, because it's another mega vendor buying up a mega title which dominates the gaming market, and the antitrust commissions are looking at it to see, are they going to play fair? Will they make the title available on other platforms? Will they make it exclusive available to the Xbox? Is there anti-competitive antitrust issues?
But they've offered concessions. We talked about this only about a few weeks ago.
But do we believe them? They've offered a concession that they will make it available
for 10 years.
Yeah, but will the quality of the game be as good on the other platforms? Will they slow it down? Will the resolution be as good? There's all of these kind of issues arising. Yeah. So when these acquisitions are being made now, at least they're being looked at, right? At least they're not just going through that somebody's, there's a bit of check and balances, like we talked about. Antitrust on this show quite a number of times, right? The mega vendors, becoming too dominant.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, they're playing war games there, but there's actually real war games going on in some other parts of Microsoft. They had a go at that massive Pentagon contract.
Huge.
What's it called?
Huge contract called, they're calling this the Return of the Jedi. I'll tell you what that means. So for those of you who haven't kept up with this news, Microsoft, the Pentagon announced a $9 billion contract that is going to be shared between, and speaking of big names, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and Oracle. And I like one of the headlines that I'm just going to call out. The five-sided government entity chose 4 cloud providers as it ended a single company Jedi contract, which is what it was called back in the day. And that was with Microsoft. But they had to end that because of the lawsuit that AWS and...
they all kicked up a fuss, didn't they?
Yeah.
That's right.
That was back in 2019. So they put an end to that, and they came up with this new, what they call a joint war-fighting cloud capability. JWCC is now going to replace the Jedi. So speaking of acronyms and everything.
Jedi's better.
So Jedi is better.
Yeah, much better.
And it's the same thing. This is a multi-cloud offering, and they're going to do this over for a period of 5 years, 2028, with all these big names. So I get the fact that you have the AWS, you have Google, and Microsoft, big names, big cloud providers.
Yeah.
But Oracle is also there. And the contract says that it's all made equal. Everybody's same.
Any sign of IBM?
No sign of IBM. The IBM very
multi-cloud.
Yeah.
Not IBM space.
Yep, no, IBM is not there.
Hybrid cloud, multi-cloud.
No,
I know.
IBM is not there.
Is it too early?
Oh, okay. Well, you're speaking about. I think.
Have I stepped in too early?
We'll talk about Oracle first.
Okay.
We had some big news. I mean, it was a big announcement when they made it. The all-cash deal that they made, and they go for Cerner.
Cerner, yeah.
We're one of these electronic health record vendors, EHR vendors, which have dominated in that whole health industry. Did you know the health industry is worth $3.8 trillion in the US alone?
Crazy.
$3.8 trillion of healthcare industry is worth. It's absolutely crazy. But they spend, so you wouldn't blame them, spending $28.3 billion in cash to Cerner to buy them. I mean, it's amazing actually what's been happening in that whole industry. We've been watching, because it used to be totally niche. It was all of these EHR companies always in that space. We've seen other guys trying to get into the industry. I mean, Microsoft kind of tried their own thing called HealthVault. I think IBM had a go with their Watson, trying to cure everybody of everything with Watson, after he was in double jeopardy. But then obviously what happened is they decided doing their own thing wasn't doing any good. They weren't successful. So they've all started coming in, buying out all of the major players. Microsoft bought Nuance there, and then a company called Athena Health was bought for $17 billion. So a number of these guys have been bought out over the years. So yeah, Larry's going to be very happy now. He's going to look into his old age. He's going to have a lot of access to health professionals, health technology through his acquisition. I'm kind of pleased for him.
Yeah, their largest ever acquisition.
That's the largest ever.
The largest, Oracle's largest ever acquisition.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, there's that. Yes. I came across another article. Speaking of Oracle, right? This is from a group, Software Licensing Consultants, and they report a significant increase in audits, by the way, this year.
Well, we talked about that last time.
We
They're
talked
moving
about
from
that last
3 years
time.
to
Great.
2 years now.
Yeah, the article just came out, and I was looking at it, and it talks about throughout 2022, Oracle's been trying to increase their bottom line, right? And the way they've been doing that, laying off thousands of people, putting a lot of pressure on customers, just getting that price higher and higher, and it's all going up one way. And now with audits, it's a significant revenue stream. So yeah, I'm sure Larry is happy when when he can get every single dollar out of customers. But the reality is, no matter what company, if you're an Oracle customer, or for that matter, any of the big vendors, you better be in a good position and stay compliant.
And what are we going to do? Like, let's say, look at those type of acquisitions of Cerner, for example. It's in the healthcare industry. I mean, we've seen what happens to customers. We see it in our business. What happens to customers when they get audited? They nearly have to down tools. It's becoming like they have a whole full-time team. So are we saying that in the health industry, which is already under pressure, in every country in the world, not just the United States, in every country in the world, health systems under pressure, they start to audit these organizations with some of the same tactics, spurious tactics that they take in? What's that going to mean for the healthcare industry? They're going to have to take resources away from the front line. Are we going to be happy with that?
If you have to go up against the Oracle team, I'm just picking on Oracle because that's the article here, they've got a full team. And, the reality is, they're going to go so strong into this. And even if you are able to prove that you are compliant, their teams don't back down, is the word on the street, according to this article as well. They don't back down. So there's a big fight that happens. And to your point, what does it do? It takes up the resources. It takes away the people, the time, the money that healthcare, an industry that already should be advancing, is investing or is just distracted just to stay compliant. Can you believe that?
And are they going to get away with this?
Well, they have done, haven't they? For a long time.
Are the courts going to let them away with these things?
I think you said it before. I think you presented recently in Gartner, Australia, and you said, well, there are no rules. Who's the referee? What are the rules, right? Are there any rules?
And do these things ever go to court? Is there any evidence of these things being adjudicated on by any of the courts?
Well, there was.
Was it?
But it wasn't one of the mega vendors. I read about this company called Bit Management Software, German company, who took on the United States, the Navy, because they had this kind of visual representation of assets, if you like. And they tried to sue the U.S. Army or the U.S. Navy for $155 million. $155 million. Now, I've checked out Bit Management's website because I'm curious to see. These guys must be a big company. That $155 million, they must be a really big company. And the website was pretty terrible. I mean, they looked like a two-man show. So I checked in who were their executive team. There's a picture of like one guy. But they tried to sue the Navy, essentially the U.S. government, because overusage of their tool.
Yeah.
But they told the U.S. Navy, I'll tell you what, it's not going to be a per user, per PC license, for which every time you want to use one, we're going to give you a license key. We'll allow you to have a floating user license, because the U.S. Navy said, the way we deploy software is just going to be too difficult for us to manage it this way. So we want a floating user license. And they allowed them to do it. And then subsequently they said, you're overusing our software to the tune of 155.
So changing the rules on the fly.
Change the rules on the fly. Now, the US government, Navy, didn't sign the tri-party agreement that they should have signed with their business partner, because they sold through a business partner. The Navy didn't do what they said they would do, which would be to use Flexera to monitor the use of the software, so that they were only using the licenses. But they said, well, but you did have an agreement. You had a verbal agreement, and Bit Management agreed to it verbally, and they agreed to the deployment of it. But later they came back to sue them, right? But they didn't get away with it, actually. The Court of Federal Claims rejected their...
Yeah, well, that's a bit of good news.
Bit of good news,
Good news,
So because you do see this flouting, with the kind of the interpretation of the policies. And,
it's a shame it's a small niche player.
It is good news if it gets to that.
If that was a mega vendor, that would have been good news for us, But they took it down from 155 million to 156,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in the mega vendors, just my last point on this, I think the mega vendors, their strategy in a situation when it comes to audits, it's always been a good cop, bad cop type team, and they are going to do everything they can to put that pressure on you. And if you want the audit to go away, then you follow the vendor dictated roadmap, and that's the reality of it. We talk about increase in cloud revenue. We talk about all customers moving, and pick any mega vendor. I'm not picking on any one, but all of them. I mean, they're forcing their customers to move to a roadmap that's beneficial for them and not the customer, and that includes moving to cloud. And speaking of mega vendors, I can talk about SAP, but I'll let you start.
No, absolutely. SAP is.
We just talked about Oracle. I was just going to say SAP is
we haven't had a huge amount of news at SAP. I mean, the only big news we've had in the last couple of years is they went from 2 CEOs to 1 CEO. But they had a program called Rise.
Yep, that SAP Rise. I think a couple of years now, and it goes to it's exactly what I'm talking about. It's Rise is a program, for those of you who may not know, high level. You're moving away from a very solid, mature, capable ECC ERP system, which you've probably companies have invested millions of dollars, originally put it in place, customized, and now SAP is moving or asking or forcing its customers to move to this program called Rise. So what is Rise, right? Rise is you're moving away from all that investment you've made to the SAP's cloud version of ECC software, which is called SAP S/4HANA. So you got the application in the cloud. But in order for that application to run in the cloud, you need to have SAP's own HANA database. You can't get any other database. So you got to make an investment. You got to get SAP's HANA database. Oh, wait a minute. You can't have it in any other public infrastructure. You got to have it in SAP's proprietary infrastructure.
Is that a licensing restriction or is that a technical restriction?
No, it's a package. It's a licensing program called Rise that's moved, that you have to have those in place in order to move to Rise. And so that's a great...
That's the biggest form of lock-in I've ever heard.
It is. That's the word.
So you can't even test and interoperate with Rise on some other database, any other database?
Yeah, because SAP runs on DB2 at the back end typically. So now it's like no DB2, all SAP Cloud.
This is all about Rise. And partnering with them now... Again, it's all the big names. Where are the little guys in the news? It's IBM again. IBM is now partnering with SAP, and they are moving all their transactions, all they're moving to SAP's S4HANA as well. And this is they're going to manage globally more than, they say, 120 countries, 1,000 legal entities, and a number of IBM businesses supporting software, hardware, consulting, finance, all going through SAP.
Wow.
And all that billions of dollars of processing. So now you're talking about two mega vendors really conquering or wanting to dominate that space. And, this is what's in the news, guys.
And the other bit of news we had, now we're talking about IBM, like we had all through a lot of 2021, we had the whole NewCo. Now we have Kyndryl gives us something else to talk about. I mean, it spun out of IBM just over a year ago now at this stage, which was called a $19 billion startup according to IBM. I mean, $19 billion in revenues. I was looking at the share price the other day. They have been challenged, no doubt. They're $2.4 billion valuation. Their share price is down 40%. I thought what was really interesting about them as an organization, they've come out of IBM with a significant revenue stream that's obviously going to be under pressure. There was, back in August, their CEO, Martin Schroeder, he made an interesting interview with CRN, or one of the publications. And he said, this is not a business that IBM has really invested in. It was incredible. Obviously he's talked up the story of Kyndryl. And I think actually Kyndryl has a lot that it could do, but IBM totally seems to have just turfed them out. Like one of the things he was talking about in his piece, he said there was not a negotiation. Our exit with IBM was not a negotiation. We didn't get to pack our own suitcase for this journey, is what he said. IBM packed the suitcase, but to be fair, we're going to play the hand we were dealt. I mean, that is quite galling. I mean, to put that in perspective, I mean, there's no way he would have been able to say that as part of the IBM world, but it's quite incredible.
Yeah, and they're clearly now playing with the other vendors as well. They're forging its own relationships with Microsoft, Amazon, Google, etc. And I've met a lot of Kyndryl people on the road. You meet them at the events, and it seems quite positive. I mean, they're a positive bunch. There seem to be a good bunch of people. They have definitely moved on very quickly from being IBMers. I mean, there's just they're Kyndryl. They're talking about cloud transformation, digital transformation, and they're not talking about IBM as being part of that. So yeah, they've had a rough start. Their valuation dropped significantly post having their suitcases packed for them, etc. I think positive noises from Martin, but I see it on the ground, with the other executives around the globe.
But it would be like, if you look at the share price as an investor, if you look at them saying, actually, from what we've seen, their people are pretty good. We've seen some really good people in the business.
Very motivated.
And they seem to have shown off the shackles that seem to be on people. I mean, many of them are ex-IBM, but they seem to be like this. There's a refresh we're seeing in the people we meet.
I think they're making an effort.
If you're back in the jockey or the horse, they're more like you'd be putting money on the jockey in this case and saying, right, the jockey looks good. I mean, the horse maybe have a few problems, but nothing like a bit of training.
And it feels like a 90,000 person startup. Like it feels like a fresh company. It doesn't feel like this old tired company. So to be fair to them, whatever they did very quickly to kind of change the brand, fix any cultural issues, move on. I mean, feet on the street. I've met them in different countries, as you said. I've met them in their offices and at events. And I think I like what they're saying.
Yeah,
I do too. And same impression, Brandon. I think what I like is, despite being such a big company, as a startup would, they're focused on their customers and they want to do the right thing for their customers, and they're looking for great partners to help them do that. So now suddenly they have they have options now, and that's going to be critical. And I think they're going to take advantage of that.
And what I think that's not sure if it's the same article, but they're also investing in their people with non-IBM technology skills, including cloud, AI, etc. So they're investing in their people. Having moved away from AI, from IBM, they got to invest in other skill sets. So and they're doing that. So that's good.
Well, let's talk about our favorite people then, will we?
Salesforce?
Come on, we got to talk about IBM. There's been, we touched on them earlier.
IBM bashing.
They lost out on that $9 billion contract, didn't they?
They did lose out on the $9 billion defense contract that I talked about, that got Google and Microsoft and AWS and Oracle. But they continue to try to, still make inroads into the federal government services. I think the one new one in the news is their acquisition of a company called Octo. And Octo is they provide all the digital transformation services for the federal government. So I think it still shows that they want to do that. Just because they're not in the $9 billion contract doesn't mean they're excluded from it. They still want to continue to focus and help out the government with this new company. It remains to be seen, how they are going to bring it to bear, but that's a new acquisition.
And how does that compare with Kyndryl then? I mean, they get rid of Kyndryl and they buy another services company. I mean, I know they'd argue that it's like it's a different company, but I'm sure Kyndryl would have a different view on that one. I imagine people from Kyndryl.
Yeah, absolutely. But,
And how are they paying for it?
Well, come back to all the things that we talk about. And Tomás and I, we had this conversation about the price increase that's looming.
Price gouging.
And price gouging. And what is the term? Price...
Harmonization.
And they've been harmonizing since what? September, Brendan?
Well, I mean, it actually started probably over a year ago. There's been a sequence of harmonizations. I mean, they first kind of reduced or took away Password Advantage benefits on about 7,000 products. I think that was about a year ago. Then in June, I mean, I love the way they when they write stuff on their website. I had to write it down because it's so good. So they're basically saying that they're making changes to its benefits program by removing the entitled discounts. Like, how do you do it? How can you put that in one sentence? It's fantastic.
Where's the benefit then?
The benefit's there. They're just removing it, and so that
who's the benefit?
It'll exist.
Who does it benefit?
It exists in the ether now, right? They're saying they go on to say then that the entitled discounts will remain unchanged for some of their hybrid and multi-cloud. That's why I mentioned multi-cloud earlier, and then they say where we will continue to focus our investment in innovation. So clearly they're saying we're not going to just the discounts on those areas, but it also says, so we're not investing in our on-prem legacy technology. I mean, they're literally putting it in their announcements where they're investing their time, money in. So in September, then they said, this is where the world price harmonization started. It was an 8% increase, right, in harmonization at that time, but 15% in certain countries, including Japan, South Korea, Norway, and Sweden. So the Nordics got hit by 15% in September. Now, in September, the rate of inflation was probably running at about 6 or 7% and climbing. It's now at 8-9%, which is at a 40-year high, right? We talked about this recently. So it's at a 40-year high of 8-9%, 10% in the UK in November. But the recent increase is not 8% or 9%. They've actually superseded the 8% with, in certain parts of the world, 24%.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So actually, the current rate of inflation in Europe is just under 9%. So it's almost 3 times the rate of inflation or the increases where you transact in the pound or the euro. So it's like Brexit doesn't come into this. It's pound, euro, krona, whatever. 24% increase and a 19% increase in Canada. So they've removed the 8%, which was only in September, and replaced it with a 24% increase.
But what's amazing about this, though, at the same time, it's incredible. It's actually incredible that they even tried this, to be honest with you. But it's not just that they've tried this. I mean, I came across this first time. It was, Niall Edery, who is the IBM practice lead for Livingston. He posted this on LinkedIn. That's where I first picked it up. I didn't pick it up from our normal sources at all. It was actually Niall who was quick to the march on it. Now, he's already just put a post up, even just today, talking about the fact that actually they took it down. So they put it up only a couple, was it 2 weeks ago now? They took it to 3 weeks ago. They took it down then for a period, and then it came back up again. And the only change they've made is that they've made some small adjustments to, they're saying the SaaS products are not going to have as much of an increase. So that's the only change they've made, now for what it's worth. But he makes a really valid comment about how are people supposed to plan? You think about a business that has, in some cases, like we know companies spending, between a couple of $1 million up to $10 million euros or pounds plus in terms of their renewals every year. And you're putting 24%, now not necessarily across on the whole portfolio because it might depend on the geography, but if everything's bought through the UK, if they're UK PLC, they're at 24%. I mean, it's as if the economy in the UK is not under enough pressure after all the things they've gone through.
It's crazy.
If
you look at what's driving inflation, obviously there's food shortages, there's energy shortages. So the item, or I guess the commodity that's impacting inflation most is energy, right? It's that it has a 24% increase on your overall rate of inflation. And that's what they're doing with software. They're saying software now has the same impact. Like, it's software. It's reproducible.
But they're also writing down that they're not investing in certain products.
And they're not investing.
And they're increasing their prices that are not... Imagine increasing the prices of products that you're not investing in.
And by the way, the changes you mentioned in the Now article about them taking it down and making some subtle changes to the SaaS products, not surprising. You know why? SaaS is not cheap. That's where they make their money. So it may seem as a concession, but it is not, because SaaS is where companies make money. And SaaS is why they're not investing in the legacy products or the installed products. They want everybody to move to the cloud products because that's the most profitable business for these vendors. And that's exactly what they're doing. So I think it's a very strategic play. But the problem is, the big problem, which you touched upon, that's happening in software. Think about IT budgets today. Tremendous pressure, right? 92% of a typical IT budget goes towards keeping the lights on. And if you're an IBM customer, and let's say you have mainframe on top of that, or any of the big ones, what's that going to do? How much money do you really have to advance the business, grow the business, and do everything your CEO and your board wants you to do? This new Gartner study survey, 81% of CEOs say that they want to continue to invest in digital going into 2023. Not surprising at all, because the CEOs and the board, that's what they want you to do. But guess what, Mr. or Ms. CIO, you're going to do it. You have to figure out how to do it. And with IBM's price increase, it's just mind-boggling. I mean, it's going to suck up more of that budget. Now, what's it going to be? 95% of an IT budget goes towards keeping your lights on?
Yeah. It's mad, it's mad. I mean, it's mad as also you talk about whose roadmap is it?
Whose roadmap is it?
But this is not just whose roadmap is it. Whose price book is it? I mean, this is outrageous. Like, it's absolutely outrageous. I think we need to introduce more of these companies to ourselves, Brendan. That's what you were doing in the last few months.
I think it'll happen because, you know, you can't have. I wrote a small little piece. There used to be an ad, and I couldn't remember the ad. I think it was like for orange juice or something, and it was like there was a jingle. You can't have one without the other. And you can't have digital transformation without cost optimization.
Exactly.
This isn't cost optimization.
Yeah.
This is anti-cost optimization. Yeah. So the only what can they do? I mean, they have to, as you said, second highest spend category is software. First highest spend category is people. The companies don't want to touch the people. They need the people to do the work. So I think it'll drive. They have to look at alternatives, which is either dropping support entirely or moving to third-party options. And Gartner were talking about this last week at the Gartner IOCS event, saying, you got to look at every spend item, decide, you know, are we using the software?
Absolutely.
Can we get it supported elsewhere? Do we actually need support at all? You know, really analyze every line item.
This is going to force IT executives to be more ruthless. I believe that's what will happen. You have to be ruthless and question every single investment going into the new year. And if that investment, as you rightly say, it's not cost cutting. You use the right words, Brendan. It's cost optimization. You want to take cost out of one part of the business, and you want to invest where you're going to make the biggest return on that. You got to invest where it's going to move the needle for the company, right? Increase revenue, decrease cost, or take market share from competition. If it doesn't do that, then don't. All this price harmonization is sounding more and more noisy. It's like cacophony. I think it's not. There's no harmonization going to be there.
Can I ask you, what will the IBM sales reps be doing with this? Will they be trying to close a deal before the 31st of December, saying if you don't do it before the 31st of December, you're going to have this price increase? Is that what's going to happen? Because these kick in January. They don't kick in.
It's going to be a hard sell, you know. I mean,
but that's really like putting a gun to people's heads.
Yeah. Are the IBM reps going to be turned away? I mean, this doesn't kick in until the 1st, so you can get your renewal done now, before the 1st, and presumably you're only going to face the 8% that existed since September. So this is from the 1st. So, but if you've got a renewal coming up in March, April, June, September,
so you have to pay it.
October next year, which many of our clients would have, or many of our prospective customers would have, they face this decision.
Yeah. And what about the slipping in of the old cloud packs to try and kill the perpetual licenses? That's the old trick that they have, so that when they come around in a year's time, they try to get out of it. They won't be able to get out of it.
It's just malpractice, really. The whole thing.
Yeah, but this is what happens on the ground.
They're not selling value.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Well,
they're going to slip and fall.
Yeah.
Well, where there's a rock.
Don't talk about slip, guys. Yeah. It brings back bad memories.
Where there's a rise, SAP HANA, there's always a fall.
That's exactly what happened.
Can we talk about? Let's talk about ourselves for a while. We've had a lot of change this year.
I think so.
We've had a lot of new people join the business. We've had a lot of new friends now with us. We've had a great new offering.
Exciting!
The offering for the mainframe platform.
Yep.
That's really taken off, hasn't it?
Huge opportunity for Origin as a company. Huge opportunity for IBM customers for all the reasons we just talked about. But with this comes a choice, right? With Origina announcing software maintenance for the Z mainframe software, and this was back in June, I think it just opened up a whole broad set of opportunity, not only for the company, as I said, because the problems are exactly the same. The high and rising costs of IBM software. And if you have, I mentioned this before, if you have mainframes, pick any of the large, the leaders in any industry that have mainframe, 96% of the top, 100 of any of these airline, manufacturing, retail, go down the list, spending billions of dollars. Now there's a choice. So it's not only the cost. What we kept hearing is the lack of skills, not only within IBM, but within their internal resources as well. So that's another opportunity or another reason they will be looking at Origin, I believe, is because IBM doesn't have that talent anymore. They've let go of that talent, and it's hard to get that talent anywhere. And we have that talent and our ability to help those mainframe customers. So between cost, the skills, and just the sheer support, something breaks, we'll fix it, and being able to help continue the life and value of mainframe customers. So very exciting, Tomas.
Yeah.
It was great to make that announcement, because when there's choice, there's competition. When there's competition, it's best value back to the customer.
Yeah, and we've already launched it only in the summertime. We've added 3 or 4 more customers already on it. And it's
What we're finding is interesting is that on the mainframe, and surprisingly, you might have thought that a lot of organizations are running versions which are old, right? But they're stable and they don't want to upgrade them. So if they want support from the OEM, being IBM again, then they have to pay more money. We know about extended support. We've talked about it on this show a few times. So that's really expensive. You think base maintenance is expensive, but extended support for an old version of IMS or ZOS or something is incredibly pricey. So we're finding that that's an option that they didn't know that they had. So now they have it. So that's so we're actually our sales force, rather than going in with trepidation into an account talking about price increases, are going in really feeling they're giving value back to the client. So
and speaking of our sales force, you have been, that's why it kept you really busy.
Well,
this
I've had
year.
to hire more.
You've tripled the size of your sales team. I mean, you've got,
we've hired,
and you've moved into, where have you gone? You've gone all over the world. You're changing the software world now. Where?
Well,
Australia?
We had been selling in, Australasia. We had been selling in Germany and the Nordics, but we put salespeople on the ground. So sales and customer success management people on the ground across those territories. So, and expanded North America. But in the Nordics, in Germany and Australia, we have our own staff on the ground.
We have more sales reps now in North America. We've more sales reps in France. We've got more sales support people. We've got more pre-sales people. We've got more sales operations people, inside sales people. It's crazy,
Well, we're just servicing the need. That's there, which has been created. The demand has been created for us by the OEM.
Yeah. And we've made other investments in the business too. We've brought in Hari to take a real deep dive. To take over
the position as the second Irish guy on the... No, it's not happening, Hari.
Exciting opportunity as I see. And you bring up a good point. I think it's the awareness, because there's so much of opportunities, helping customers understand. Helping IBM customers understand they have a choice, I think, is the mission, is to make that, put that awareness out there. So, exciting, guys, to be here and lead the content mission, working with the analyst community, working with many of the thought leaders in the industry. And speaking of analysts, by the way, it's not only our internal folks who are confidently going in because we are able to help, but the likes of Gartner, for example, the Gartner Market Guide, for the 4th consecutive year, has named Origina as the only provider for not only the distributed side, but with the mainframe announcement we just talked about, we're the only company that can provide both the distributed as well as mainframe software maintenance, and listed as the only choice or alternative for IBM in the market guide. So great things happening. And with Rowan's team expanding globally, with the market awareness opportunity and the content that my team is going to produce, I think, we're just getting started.
Yeah, and we've had some changes at an executive level. Bring it all back to me. It's hopefully give me more time.
Yeah.
It is all about me sometimes, as they say in here.
Take it.
But we have Shannon Mahaffey now has taken over a global role as Chief Operating Officer. We now have a really deep leadership team with the second captains we have across the business of supporting our executive team. So I think we're in a good place for coming into 2023. We'll talk about some predictions in a minute for 23, but I should talk about as well some of the things we did outside of business. We supported a whole stream of charitable initiatives, and it's going to mention a few here, from the Irish Youth Foundation here in Ireland, Manor Hospital. There was 100 miles in a month. Quite a number of people did, and raised over 9,000 euros for that. You know, we constantly give money towards a number of charities, homeless charities here in Ireland and also in the US and Texas. We give 2% of our operating profit towards that. We supported the hurricane through Gina Marquez, one of our team based in Florida, the hurricane that hit Florida in the United States and Southwest Florida. We had recently the bell ringing for the Red Kettle Drive for the Salvation Army, plus many, many other initiatives. So listen, I think we've had a good 2022.
And I can tell you, being a new member of the original family, I feel very proud to be part of a company that is so selfless. Meaning, thinking beyond business is very hard for many companies, and I've lived it, I've experienced it. But being able to do the things that you just listed shows the company with the heart.
Good. Well,
yeah,
we want to keep it up for 2023. Yep. Let's talk about, finally, to wrap things up, some predictions. Mm-hmm. Who wants to start?
Well, I'll try. Well, going into 2023 or 2022, we did this and we said, what are the predictions? And I think I correctly.
Oh, go. Please.
So I remember yours. Do you remember yours?
No.
Well, you talked about the increased doubling down on antitrust.
Yeah.
And I think you're right there. That we saw a lot of additional antitrust regulation around the globe. But I said that the tech industry would suffer. So it had to, but it was kind of easy, right? It had climbed so high, but once it came out of the full impact of the pandemic, and they employed too many people, they grew too fast, they employed people at too fast a rate, and they've kind of realized it, and so the tech industry has had a tough year. Some of the valuations have declined. So what's my prediction for 2023? I think it's going to be. We're entering into a period of stagflation, and I was reading about an account that one of the world's leading economists, a guy called Rumani, and he said that only the very robust organizations, corporations, households and bodies will escape what's coming. Like it's not over. The energy crisis isn't over. We'll see how we get through the winter. I do think you're right, Harry. I think people will need to continue to invest to grow, right? And some of your predictions. But I think, unfortunately, we're going to see a difficult time from these organizations as they continue to do that. So I think we're going to see some increased challenges for the tech sector. Fortunately, we're probably going to see more people being laid off. But then there's options. They need to figure out ways to continue to fund the investment, which is inevitable. So I think there's going to be a continuous challenging period for tech.
Wow. Harry?
I like the word robust. Only the robust will survive. And as part of that robust mindset, I believe companies will start to look very closely at every line item of their budget in order to do exactly that, invest in innovation. I think investing in innovation and cost optimization are not two separate initiatives. I think they're very closely connected and synergistic, right? You do one well, it comes back and you become more and more efficient. It's a spiral it's like a snowballing effect. So you pick the right innovation and it can help with efficiency. You can reduce more costs, you can go back to more innovation and all of that. And I think we started talking about this during the COVID times, right? You can't, if you stay on course, you get run over, or if you stand still, you get run over. But it's become the norm. So my prediction along, just adding to Brendan's thought here is innovation is not stopping. I mean, whether you like it or not, companies have to continue to move forward, innovate. And in order to do that, you have to be good stewards of your IT dollars. And we just talked about a bunch of big name numbers and big mega vendor tactics and policies. And so ultimately, I believe every customer has a choice. Follow a vendor dictated roadmap or follow a business driven roadmap that's going to drive innovation. Mm-hmm. So prediction is innovation will rule.
Good. Well, my prediction for 2023 is that we will see more healthy skeptics amongst our customers, and they will be more enlightened, and they will become part of the movement to drive change in the industry. So that's what I predict. We will start to see household names active in trying to make a real change in the industry. That's my prediction for 2023.
That will be music to my ears.
Great.
I think that's about all we have time for this special holiday episode. It was great to have Brendan. Have you back?
Thank you very much. Great to be back, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to have you
Look
back.
forward to the next one.
And it's,
Thank you for keeping me on.
Keeping you honest.
Keeping me honest. Yeah.
Thank you, Hari, for joining us. And I think we'll have to figure out how do we accommodate 3 of us in the 2 Irish guys discussing
I'm
software.
liking it. It's always fun
2023.
to chat with you guys.
And to you, our listeners, thank you for joining us. We wish you a very, very Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday. And we will talk to you all in 2023. Happy New Year. Bonne année, as they say en France. Bye-bye.